Hello and welcome to EBAday 2022 in Vienna. I'm Hannah Wallace, and joining me now in the studio to talk about some of the opportunities within payments is Sulabh Agarwal from Accenture. Sulabh, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you, Hannah. It's a pleasure.
Really good to have you on. We're on the second day of EBAday, so thanks for taking the time. And we're talking about some of those growth opportunities within payments, a really interesting one, and at the centre of a lot of discussions during EBAday. So I want you to set the scene for us first. What do you see across the payments landscape? And more specifically, what are some of the challenges we're seeing around incumbents?
Payments overall as a market is changing dramatically. I mean, we're seeing a lot of new fintech scale-up activities. You've got various parts of the value chain which are being disaggregated, and new propositions are coming through. We know buy now, pay later. We know the remittances space. We know like several other parts of the payments value chain, including on the merchant acquiring side, where there are new propositions coming up and lots of change happening. At the core of it, the technology as well is evolving fast. You've got new payment methods, crypto, CBDCs, as well as people are talking about connected commerce, and how the whole thing is going to work in future will be very different, or could be very different to what it is today. So in that exciting futuristic context, if you look at the reality on the ground with a number of financial institutions, there's still a lot of regulatory changes. We're talking about moving to real-time payments. We're talking about changing the message formats and standards to ISO, which are all big, heavy-duty programs in their own right. And a lot of effort and energy is going in fixing the rails or fixing the fundamentals.
That's right.
Other challenges include the current mindset, culture of this is how we have done things for many decades. Why should we change? There are challenges around legacy technology stacks, and also I think if I were to add the risk of cannibalization. So if you're an incumbent, you're always thinking that we need to report again next quarter out to the market, and I want to maintain the revenue stream, not realizing that you have to reinvent and there will be a dip to take in to actually create something new. So various challenges.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you very much for bringing us up to date there. As you say, a huge list of changes, and with those changes, as you say, come some challenges. So what's the response here? How should we be tackling those challenges moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's about changing both the what and the how. So while still working on some of the mandatory changes, thinking about what can be a different customer proposition out there. So focusing on various aspects of the proposition, I would say friction and the customer experience is clearly a big area of focus. And if you look at all the more fintech type propositions, they're all very customer friendly from an experience perspective. So taking friction out of the customer journeys, thinking about how it could be an omni-channel experience, which actually fits in with the Gen Zs and how they're used to interacting with the world of commerce overall is quite important. I think the other aspect is thinking about the purpose and how the purpose could be part of how day-to-day interaction and commerce work. And ESG comes into mind around how sitting on top of every transaction, how you can enable the customer to be able to be more purposeful in their spending and transactional experience. And I think this is a new area where organizations are exploring, but will clearly be one of the most talked about, as well as influencing propositional aspect. And finally, I think everyone is looking at is how do you monetize the data you have, how do you build the value added services where you actually support the customer in their overall experience rather than bring the transaction itself. So what is the end-to-end journey, but then thinking about the value-added services you can do to enable the customer.
All right, some very good advice weaved into that response there. Thank you very much, Sulabh. So my final question then is, what does the future hold for this space, and what do you think it will take to succeed in this rapidly changing ecosystem?
Yeah, I think you've said the future in your question. So it is rapidly changing and super exciting, right? So every day, I mean, like EBAday itself, we've been talking about so many changes happening, and the potential is enormous. And my advice would be to be on the front foot. I think this is more about the mindset, the culture, the approach. So we all know there's a lot to do, but it is about how you weave in test and learn, new approaches, as well as look for the opportunities. If there's particular segments like SMB segment where there's a big opportunity to go after and create a proposition, just do it. But what will not happen automatically is just sit back and the propositions will appear automatically. I think it is all about changing the mindset, going out there, trying new propositions and creating new user journeys and experiences.
Don't be afraid to get out there, I think is the message. Sulabh, thank you very much for sharing your insights. I'll let you get back to the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anna.